Hello and welcome to a special presentation here on PRTC TV. We have got an exciting event coming up, something unlike Jackson County has ever seen before. It's called the Boone Forest Rally. It's going to be a rally race through the Daniel Boone National Forest. To my right is Eric Hubbard. He is the Executive Director of Back Roads of Appalachia. To my left is Brian Anderson. He is the clerk, of course, with the Boone Forest Rally. Let's start with Eric. And Eric, we talked before we came on the air and we were going to film this special for PRTC TV. The event's coming up September 22nd and 23rd, so it's very, very soon. But so many people over here have never even heard of what a rally race even is. Can we break it down and kind of unpack it for them to help them understand what a rally race is all about?
Absolutely. We'll begin with NASCAR started off saying that they were the original Ridge Runners and the Moonshiners in Prohibition. That's not the case. The Moonshine Runners were rally car drivers, they just didn't know it. Rally car racing is a sanctioned sport. It's actually the #2 motorsport in the world, and its purpose is clear, is to give a staged timed event, one car race at a time, and try to see who's ultimately the fastest and the best in a controlled environment on a gravel, crooked, curvy road.
That's the basics of it.
That's the basics.
Now, and again, from my perspective, and we have like 60-some thousand acres of Daniel Boone Forest that dissects our Jackson County, making us one of the biggest counties in the state of Kentucky, but we're also one of the most sparsely populated. So you see these 60-some thousand acres of forest and you say a rally race and it's going to go through the forest. It just sounds like a bunch of cars just speeding through the forest out of control, but there's a whole lot more to it than that.
Absolutely, and a big portion of this and why I actually decided to move to Jackson County was because of your spectacular roads, thanks to the Daniel Boone National Forest and the natural layout of Jackson County. But with that being said, everything is done in a safety precaution. We have a tech inspection. These are licensed professional drivers, not just your driver's license kind. They actually got to attend a school to get sanctioned and be able to compete, and it requires a driver and a co-driver. The driver, of course, is the man behind or the woman behind the wheel, and the co-driver is a person that's crazy enough to be in there telling them which turn 3 steps ahead at all times because of their speed. Safety is always the #1 priority of whatever rally car racing is. They have to have a special cage made, fire suppression, and oil and spill kits on the cars is required. And it is really more precision driving than mass chaos. They are controlled. Accidents, of course, any kind of accident will get them out of the race, and that's what we don't want. And at the same time, with the Daniel Boone National Forest and land around, the terrain is good enough and smooth enough that it's not going to cause attrition because of cars going through major ruts or things of that nature. And really, ultimately, rally is just the mega that can be. We don't need racetracks, and that's the beautiful thing about our terrain of Eastern Kentucky all around. Is that we have so many opportunities, and rally is a big portion of that. So much so that I think some people saw Subaru Motorsports. They came here to test a brand new $3.5 million race car. They could have went anywhere else in the country, but they started to see Eastern Kentucky and especially Jackson County. I think that's a wonderful thing because the most important thing with rally car racing is a tourism initiative, which drives heads to bed, food to mouth, and lips to sit, which is ultimately economic development for our people.
We're talking with Eric Hubbard, the Executive Director of Back Roads of Appalachia. Now, Eric, talk to us about the organization of Back Roads of Appalachia, something you started, and what was your thought process behind Back Roads of Appalachia?
Many years ago, going throughout the country for Norfolk Southern Railroad, my military time, and this is my travels on a motorcycle, I seen an opportunity that, I feel that our people in the Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia regions being left behind. We have a census problem. We have all these issues, jobs, lack of good paying jobs, lack of jobs. What can I do to change that? So Back Roads of Appalachia's sole purpose is economic development through motorsports. We focus on anything with a motor to bring the opportunity to locate potential clients to invest in Eastern Kentucky, create jobs, manufacturing jobs. At the same time, give people a reason to come to Eastern Kentucky to enjoy what we have to offer. And I always say our roads and terrain sells itself. Our Appalachian people is why they come back, and that's what it's all about.
Harlan County boy going over to native Jackson County, and then Brian Anderson, you're the clerk of course with the Boone Forest Rally. Talk to us about the Boone Forest Rally and what all that means and how it got its start and how it coincides with Back Roads of Appalachia.
So really, the way I got into this was somewhat by luck. So we have a cruise in every month, and I was at the cruise in several months back, and I seen on Facebook that there was rallies, the 100 Acre Woods Rally in Missouri. And I told Eric, I said, we need to do something like that here. We've got great roads. And he said, it's already something he's working on. He said, do you want to help? And I said, of course, I'd love to. It was really fascinating. So one thing led to another. He and I started going to rallies together, trying to learn and see what these rallies done well, see what they didn't do well, and how we could create the best rally in this area. We've got the best roads. We've got the best people, so how can we create the best experience and it creates something sustainable that we can do year after year, or maybe even multiple times per year.
And that's one thing I'd like to take a second and thank Brian. You don't find people willing to do it because it's a volunteer job. Hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours to put this together. And Brian, of course, from his experience with me and traveling, he latched right on. And it's not about glory for Brian. It's about helping his people, and you can't find a truer volunteer than that.
Mm-hmm. So that's what was kind of birthed the Boone Forest Rally, was you all coinciding together and talking about rally racing and how we can make it better and how we can bring it to Eastern Kentucky.
One thing I'll jump in, rally car racing and motorsports events all around the country is that they do amazing jobs, but they forget the most crucial part of any kind of community-based race or an event is a community. So what we try to do with Back Roads of Appalachia, we want everybody to have a red carpet event and feel very special. However, it's about the moms and the dads and the kids. It's about the kids getting high on cars or high on motorcycles instead of on drugs. And, you know, I take pride with thanks to Tim Truitt, State Representative Tim Truitt, that we were able to negotiate all 3 elementary schools having the ability for these drivers to come and talk to the kids that morning from 9 to 11:30 on Friday, September 22nd, because it's a spark. We want to change people's lives, and motorsports is a way to do that. Because you ain't got enough money after you get done fixing your car and paying to do anything else, but that's just a joke. But the tight-knit community of motorsports is, you can't beat it. It's just like a rural, tight-knit town. It's the same kind of community. They come in, and you know, all the Airbnbs here in Jackson County, of course, sold out, is my understanding. Restaurants, or even, we have the Jackson County baseball team, they're preparing breakfast and lunch for us, so there'll be a donation to them guys, and that's what it's all about.
Involving the community.
It's all about community, period. Race to us is second. You know, that's why Brian focuses on the race. I focus on the community. And it's all about niching together. And there's already been so many talks and studies and conversations about how we do it, because we take community first versus everywhere else. They're asking us now, can you come to us and help us do this? Because if you don't have community buy-in and community backing, you're wasting your time. So
here on PRTC TV, we're talking about the Boone Forest Rally. It's coming up on Friday and Saturday, September 22nd and 23rd. Now, Brian, back to you for a moment. So this Boone Forest Rally and the birthing of it and all this, for people that don't understand how, where are the people coming from that's going to be racing these cars? How many cars can we expect at a race like this?
So we set a cap at 40 cars because this is our first rally. National events, sometimes we'll have approximately 100 cars. So we already have 30 cars committed. Some of the cars that are competing this weekend, the ones that survive, they may sign up and be here for us next weekend. So we'll be between 30 and 40 race cars for the volunteers. Volunteers, we're at nearly 100 volunteers. They're coming from as far as Minnesota, from the south, Georgia, from the northeast. So we've got a lot of people that love to travel and volunteer. The cars, maybe Eric knows where they're all coming from, but I know there's some from Michigan and some from the south, and they're coming a long way. This is really attracting a large population of people from a lot of different areas.
And one thing too is that, and you and I talked about this before we came on the air, you don't roll out of bed one day and become a rally driver.
You don't.
I mean, there's so many steps involved, and in some ways, they're treated with the same precautions and the same specifications, the same requirements as a professional NASCAR
Yeah,
driver.
they are.
So
Actually more.
So talk to us about, I mean, and again, we're not appealing for you all to be rally car drivers today because you won't have time and it's so much more involved. We're wanting spectators to set up and see this race and see something you've never seen before. But talk to us, Eric, about some of the steps that are involved if you want to become a rally car driver.
Well, first of all, you got to have a production vehicle, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or all wheel drive. You have to go through your sanctioning body. We have, of course, you can go to the AmericanRallyAssociation.com and you can get all the information and the safety requirements. You have to build your car to spec for roll cage, interior, your seats has to be special, HONS devices, all your linkage and all of your seat belts has to be a certain standard.
Even down to the tires.
Yeah, down to the tires is crucial. Fuel is crucial. You can't run it without catalytic converters and mufflers because the last thing we ever want to do in the forest and the woods is create a fire. But the potential for our local people to do it is there. You can buy a car for $6,000 and be prepared to rally. They're for sale. You can go to North American Rally and some people will sell them. However, with that being said, just because you have the car don't mean you're ready to go. You have to take special classes. You have to, it's highly recommended you go to a rally school, either in Vermont or Idaho. We're working on a rally school for Kentucky right now. But it can be from anywhere from a $5,000 or $6,000 car build, and you do it yourself, up to $250,000, or the big wigs and the big dogs is $3.5 million race cars. Take pride that we do have the ranked number 1 and 2 in the country coming to this event. Vermont Sports Cars, not Brandon with Subaru Motorsports, because they're only allowed to race on national events. But we're bringing Connor Martell and Vermont Sports Cars' old car, now the new car, the old car, and he'll be racing that. And also the number 2 ranked rally car racer in the nation, Patrick Grushka of Green APU, will be here. And that's phenomenal. And, so much phenomenal is that Green APU gave us hundreds of kids' shirts for Friday. So they can wear their shirts and he can sign their shirts for them. You don't get that at NASCAR. I'm sorry. I love Bristol. I love anything motorsports, but it's all about, again, rally is all about the community.
So this is coming up on September 22nd and 23rd. That's going to be a Friday and Saturday. And let's start with what's going on the 22nd, because we're not racing on the 22nd, but we are preparing to race and we are engaging the community on that Friday.
Absolutely.
And we're starting with the kids that morning.
Absolutely. We'll begin with a regional race as a one-day race. Something called Super Regional, which is the next step up, is a 2-day race. And then the National is a 2 to 3 day event. We're fighting hard already for the National event because we have an opening spot at September and no one else has it, and we are doing the right steps to make sure we acquire that. But Friday is all about how we set this up. Usually most rallies require you to do recce, which is the day, and I'll get into that in a minute, but it's the day where the driver and co-driver, they go out in their personal vehicle and they're making their pace notes. Then they go back and they communicate and they watch the video at 4 times the speed of what they was driving their personal car, and they start talking to each other on them notes, so mentally they're learning the course. But how we set it up, like I said, this is a grassroots motorsport. Why do I want, John here to miss work if he can drive? Because where we're at in Jackson County, Kentucky, we're 500 miles away from 2/3 population. Let's give them the ability to go to work and make the long drive Friday night if they don't have time off, but they still get to keep their paycheck. And we're going to do recce Saturday morning and race later on, which causes something really cool and special, a night stage. And that just makes everybody more excited because they don't get to do that anymore.
Now, he has talked about the fact about involving community. Now, on Friday morning, we will have a time with the children, but Was that one of the things that kind of triggered you whenever you saw the opportunity to have the Boone Forest Rally with the back roads of Appalachia? Was just seeing that if you did it the right way, you could really impact the community you were having that rally within? That's
exactly right. So really the one thing I picked up right away from the other rallies was the amount of community involvement. It was, it reminded me of when I was younger, I guess. It seems that times were different back then, less busy maybe, but it was nice, it was refreshing. So the community involvement was really a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, take us back, Eric. Okay. We talked about on Friday. Yep. Let's give them a little bit of the chronology of what they can expect starting on Friday morning, the 22nd.
So at PRTC's building beside the baseball field and the War Memorial, and also what's the Bitmine place called? UMine. For all locals, we'll have our cars and teams stationed there. You're welcome to drive by. We ask you not to really walk in because there's a lot of moving parts and we don't want them to either break something or have something happen or you get hit by a car. But throughout that day of Friday, 9 to 11:30, they're going to all 3 elementary schools doing the autographs and signatures, and then they're going to have time to work on their car. They're going to have to go through something called tech inspection, where we have the master of all tech inspectors coming, and he is very thorough making sure that these cars are safe and all the requirements are there for them to be able to continue for the shakedown for Friday night and also for the race Saturday. Mm-hmm. Shakedown is a really crazy word, but shakedown is very vital and important. Usually racers pay extra for shakedown. We didn't want to do that because it's all about community. We want them to, so Mill Creek Road will be a closed road that afternoon from 6 to 8:30. They will be able to go and test their cars with no spectators around to make sure that their cars is running optimal performance, but also they can set their cars up for the following day because our terrain is different than Minnesota with sand. We have rock. Mm-hmm. While they're doing that, they will be coming down by the Jackson County Square, where we have combined with the cruise in at the square, where everybody can see these cars driving by the square. It's a requirement of their route to go back to Mill Creek, and it's also a place for vendors to come and set up. One thing Back Roads of Appalachia never does is charge their vendors. Set up. Shane Gabbard's already said you're welcome to do that, and it's an opportunity for you to bring out and make an opportunity of money, but most importantly, community involvement. Mm-hmm. That night, after the shakedown is over, they are required to come to the square for an hour and a half. Bring your family and kids out. Eat a hot dog or some Filipino or some Mexican, and get some autographs for your kids that night. Then after that, they of course go into bed at one of their beautiful Airbnb locations or at the campground and prepare for Saturday morning.
Okay, so this is going to be on Friday the 22nd, 9 to 11:30. The cars are going to be with the drivers visiting all the elementary schools from 9 to 11:30. I think you mentioned maybe some free shirts that you had donated.
We've already passed them out.
Yeah, and then they will go through a shakedown that is basically going to be an inspection of the vehicle, make sure it's running the way it's supposed to and it's safe. And then they will have a kind of a trial run that evening and then come back down to the square in downtown around 8:30 or 9 probably on Friday night and have a chance for another little meet and greet opportunity and talk to people on Friday night. Now, Saturday, and that's when we're going to get into the actual race, but you mentioned that the way we're doing it is going to push us into nighttime because it's a regional and we're trying to encapsulate everything in one day.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk to us about Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, of course, our volunteers and ourselves, we will be doing something called bannering, where we will go out. We had Jordan Thompson in his sign shop. He made all the signs for our rally. Every curve, if it's a yellow, red, whatever, we have to put signs up. This is a visual effect for the rally car drivers to know this is how much to brake, what kind of degree turn it is, and things of that nature. And while we're doing that, we're having the rest of our volunteers and drivers and co-drivers coming to the UK Extension office downtown, where the Jackson County baseball team will be, high school baseball team, will be doing breakfast and preparing bag lunches for all the volunteers and drivers. And you know, some of these people ain't never had gravy and biscuits. They need to try, right? So I thought it was a wonderful idea to be able to include our youth in this. Again, as always, it's all about community. But I was told that they were trying to raise money to go to Florida. What a better way than to have our drivers, volunteers, and co-drivers in our organization help pave that way for them to do it for a little bit of work. But the lunches will be, after breakfast, they will be all set to go to the stage. Volunteers is a magic word. I know you do the fair. Someone that loves their community or loves a sport or loves an activity that will stay out in the middle of the woods until dark, around all the critters and all the bugs, to ensure that the safety of an event can happen. And, you know, God bless our volunteers for that.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
But while they're doing that, our cars at 7:30 will be taking off in a private vehicle, not their race car, and they're going to be doing something called recce. Recce is the most crucial and important thing of rally car racing. It's when the information is passed between the driver and co-driver, so when they go out to perform at the race, they're not blind. They're not just holding it wide open and guessing. It's precision. It's all about precision driving. After 11:30, all the rest of the volunteers will go up. We will close down our roads, and at 2:30, the race will start. A very important part of our race, was asked earlier, is that we do have safety in every aspect of this. We have a 000, a 00, and a 0 car. Their purposes are to ensure that the road is clear, all the banners are up, and all the yellow tape and red tape is up for our spectator locations and also our road crossings, because in case of side-by-side, a hiker, they know to stop and not cross that road. And we'll have a marshal at every spot so we can ensure that they do not go on that active road, because the last thing we want to do is see any kind of casualty or accident. After they go through, the last one will be the 0 car. He's going at 80% speed. He's a professional rally car racer, and he is making sure that the road is up to par before we release the cars. The top 5 cars in the timing of all the other rallies will leave first, and they leave every 3 minutes apart. That's because they go so fast. The dust, we want to ensure that they have a visual, and we give them a gap. The next cars will go every minute apart. They're not as fast. It's the grassroots guys. But they still go fast, and they still have a good time, but you know, they don't need a gap. And we have to run everything to the itinerary and to the clock and by the minute. And that's where our volunteers come in very handy for that. And after our cars go through that stage, you have an emergency sweep vehicle and a heavy sweep vehicle. Emergency sweep is just checking if there was a car that got off the road, they're okay. The heavy sweep goes by, and if they have the potential that car can be still driven and fixed, we're going to get it out of the ditch. They're going to take it back to service, and they're going to try to fix it so they at least can compete still. They're not going to win, but they'll be able to compete. And that's pretty much how the stage will work. And our stages, I take great pride in naming them the Anderson, because of all his hard work, and also the Strong for Jamie Strong at the emergency management. You know, I believe in giving back any way I can to our people. But if it wasn't for Brian Anderson and Jamie Strong, this wouldn't happen. And I can't thank them enough for that. So I thought the coolest thing to name the stages after 2 guys that really pushed hard to make that happen.
Now, did you say, when does the first stage, actual
2:30.
first stage race? At 2:30. And then the second stage will start approximately?
As
It's about 1 hour behind.
Yeah, 1 hour behind.
Yeah, about 3:30.
So you have a 2:30 stage and a 3:30 stage.
Yep.
But now you mentioned the night stage.
Yep. So how this works is the first 2 stages we will go through, stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1's at Tussey Hill, and it ends down at Gravel or at Horse Lick on 1955. Cars are street legal, they have personal insurance, so they're legally allowed to transit, not race, transit, which means they cannot go over the speed limit. And they're going to take 1955 down Beanpole Road to all the way over to Gravel Lick, and then from Gravel Lick we'll start again and go back into the Daniel Boone National Forest. After stage 1 and stage 2 is complete, they will go back to downtown McKee, and they're going to eat their lunch, hopefully chow it down, change their tires, fill up their cars. If any damage or things, they repair them. And stage 3, 4, and 5 will then start. And stage 4 and 5 is the Strong. It's the same stage. We're just going to run them and run them back again in the dark, where we'll end up in downtown McKee, where I have spent a fortune on alcohol-free champagne, trophies done by a local person, and we're going to have our celebration that evening in downtown square. And then after that, everybody's relieved. They can go home Saturday night, but most is going to have a good time, so they'll leave Sunday. And it's all about, again, is that heads to bed, food to mouth, and lips to sit.
He talked about Brian Anderson, he's the clerk of course with the Boone Forest Rally here on PRTC TV. He talked about the hundreds of hours that go into this, and for people that don't know about rally racing, you know, we're not just putting a bunch of cars out in the woods and saying, you know, you need to get over that next hill over there.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, just the mapping alone and just the getting the trail set. I can't imagine how long that has to take, because you got boots on the ground out in the woods, and you're probably using GPS and different things.
Right.
But a lot goes into this that people don't understand as far as just getting the trail set.
There's been a lot of work, and we've been working on this, Eric and I and Jamie, and we've
Brody.
had other volunteers,
Brody
Brody, and a lot of people have come from other areas to support us as well. But we've been doing the mapping. We have to have really precise distances because these are sanctioned events, and we've done GPS mapping for that. There's also
Safety
a lot of
plan.
teams, safety plans. There's a lot of volunteers, so also in parallel, we're meeting weekly with volunteers. So tonight we've got some ham radio communication guys, and they're creating the plan and mapping for where each of the towers will be, because we're setting up temporary towers for radio communications, and we're meeting with the volunteers for some of the stage leaders. So we've got different stage captains, and these captains, they're building their teams that are working with timing controls. We're using electronic timing devices, so we're training those volunteers how to use those devices. So it's an enormous amount of work, but at the same time, it's very rewarding just to see all of this come together.
When someone asked me real quick on how can you explain rally military, it's set up just like military in orders, and then there's a pecking order and how it works. But you know, we also, everything we turn in and submit, it goes to the American Rally Association, and then they reject. Well, if there's a problem or they don't like it, we got to go to communication and reset the plan to get to the point. At the same time, we have worked with the National Forest, and we've had some battles, no disrespect to some environmentalists out there, but you know, again, rally cars are a street legal vehicle, and as far as tearing, I keep hearing about, what about the roads? Well, we had Brandon Simonak here with Subaru Motorsports, and he tested on these roads. The roads got better with the rally cars because it's actually plowing and pushing the gravel and actually settling it. So I don't see much or no road damage at all done by these cars. They're very lightweight, and the tires are not giant mud tires. They're just a little bit aggressive street tires, and they're all about that footprint. We tread lightly wherever we go. That's what I love about rally, and we're going to leave it cleaner and better than we found it.
Well, that's one thing that, you know, I thought of is some people might say, well, you know, are we going into protected federal forest and just tearing up jack and then pulling out? But that's not the case.
No.
Right, that's absolutely right. It was surprising to me, to Eric's point, that the roads were improved afterwards. And for people that's familiar with the area, a lot of people are, some of these roads are rough for a street vehicle. So these were not necessarily good roads to begin with, but for these purpose-built cars with these suspensions, that's what they want. And after they made some passes on these, it almost was as if the roads were freshly graded.
Yep.
So that was my experience as well. The road condition was not deteriorated, but rather improved in most areas.
And this is where Jackson County Physical Court and the road department came in. We marked some problems that we've seen, and they volunteered. Shane Gabbard, of course, they went to work and made the roads where we need them to be able to put on this event because they believe in their people. And also our volunteer firemen, emergency or EMTs, EMS, police, everything that's coming into this, it couldn't have happened without them, as well as a couple of our sponsors, which is Jackson County Tourism, as well as Ecotech out of London, Kentucky, Mr. Jim Lewis. He's been around back roads long enough that he helped sponsor this for us, and of course back roads is kicking in a lot of money on this as well. But I believe and I know that this, with Brian's help, Jamie Strong's help, and our community buy-in and our physical court, that we will be a national event next year. So I'm willing to lose a lot of money to make it happen. And people like, you know, you're making all kinds of money doing this. We're charging $200 a car. We're making it absolutely about free for them to come. $100 of that money goes directly to the insurance policy for a $5 million insurance policy. and the other $100 is going directly to Rally Safe. We're actually capping in an extra $100, not counting about everything else we're already putting together for this. So I believe in community. We're funded, of course, with the state of Kentucky, and my job is to find opportunity to help our communities, our poverty-stricken communities, and make them better. And I really believe and know that we can do that through motorsports, and we prove it on a pretty regular basis.
So again, just to kind of wrap things up, because we're almost out of time, this is happening Friday, September 22nd, Saturday, September 23rd. It's the Boone Forest Rally that is sponsored by the Backroads of Appalachia as a part of the American Rally Association with help from tourism and all the county government officials we've had. Friday morning, 9 to 11:30, these rally cars will be with their drivers, free t-shirts at the elementary schools on that Friday morning. They're looking for spectators. So guys, let's talk about a call to action here. If people want to find out more about this, where do we direct them?
The BooneForestRally.org on a website. Facebook's the Boone Forest Rally, and you can also download an app called Sportity, and the password for that is?
Password is Boone23, capital B, 23. Boone
So
23.
anything that you want to know is really the most important up-to-date information is on the Sportity app. It's totally free. But if you type in Boone 23 on that, all your information is instant and live, so you know exactly what's going on, as well as the day of the race. If you meet a driver you like and you want to follow up with him, you can watch where he's at placing and root for him. And again, for Saturday night, we ask everyone to come back down for trophies and podium, where we can celebrate a safe, great event that's going to become a national event for 2024.
You even mentioned if things go well, we may see ESPN here in a year or two.
That's a good possibility. We'll have plenty. We actually have Dirtfish. Feel free to look that up. They will be here doing all the coverage, and Dirtfish is world renowned, highlighting, as always, beautiful Jackson County when we do this.
Now on Saturday, Brian, there's going to be a lot of people coming to this that has never seen a rally, doesn't know what a rally race is.
Right.
Let's talk about where we want them and at what time we want them to view this race.
So the best place to get the information, we have put some information up on the Boone Forest Rally Facebook page. It's got some maps, some GPS locations, and some directions of entry, because there's more than one way to get to those locations, and we want to make sure that people don't take the closed roads, they come in the open roads. So I would direct everyone to the Boone Forest Rally Facebook page. That's going to have the most updated information and can get people to where they need to be.
So Boone Forest Rally on Facebook, and you mentioned BooneForestRally.org on the internet.
Yes, sir.
On the web. So
Yes, sir.
again, that's coming up to September 22nd and 23rd. Something unlike anybody has ever seen here in Jackson County, the Boone Forest Rally. I want to thank Greg Lakes from Jackson County Tourism for his support of this organization, and also to Brian Anderson from the Boone Forest Rally, and to Eric Hubbard from Backroads of Appalachia. Hope you guys can be involved. And again, go to BooneForestRally.org on the net, Boone Forest Rally on Facebook for all the details. And we appreciate you for joining us here on PRTC TV.
Thank you, PRTC.